Good morning. I'm Ruth Van Lillian, the minister of this congregation, and we'd like to welcome you to our online worship service at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Tuscaloosa. We are a covenantal community founded on love and a common devotion to our free faith. We recognize all the earth as sacred ground, and wherever we are physically this morning, we welcome each other into this virtual space. We especially welcome those visiting with us online this morning. We're so glad that you are with us. We invite you to connect with our congregation in the comments below, or via email, or phone, or Facebook. You will find the necessary information in the order of service link found below in the video description.
Good morning, I'm Melissa Barksdale, the lay service leader for today. Please visit our website at UUTuscaloosa.org for ongoing information regarding future church activities. The prelude prepares us for the service. We invite you to light a chalice of your own at home. We light this chalice as a beacon of our faith and as a reminder of our commitment to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We worship together, though we are at a distance, by celebrating that which is sacred to us individually and collectively.
Our welcoming words today are a call and response. I'm going to invite Melissa to stand an appropriate distance from me, and she will give the response here at the church, and you are invited to respond at home. For the sun and dawn which we did not create,
we give thanks this day.
For the moon and the evening which we did not make,
we give thanks this day.
For food which we plant but cannot make grow,
we give thanks this day.
For friends and loved ones, near and far, whom we have not earned and cannot buy,
we give thanks this day.
For the company gathered together online, which welcomes us as we are from wherever we have come,
we give thanks this day.
For all things which come to us as gifts of being from sources beyond ourselves,
we give thanks this day.
If you will look in the notes below or the link to the order of service, you will find the words for our hymn. Our opening hymn is number 108, which is When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. You are invited to sing along at home.
Trust the wisdom in each of us, every color
heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace, and our heart is in a holy place. When we tell a story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts turns us within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
When we gather in loving community, we remember that we do not travel this earth alone. We share our lives as we light candles and hold each other in meditative thought and reverence. We will observe a moment of silence as we invite you to share your joys and burdens in the comments below and engage with each other in congratulations and condolences. I will now light a final candle for all burdens and celebrations shared in our virtual space and those that went unspoken. May the warm light of these flames bring us peace.
I encourage each of you, wherever you are, to be in a meditative, thoughtful posture, to embrace a few moments of silence, and then I will close with a few words. Out of the dusk, a shadow, then a spark. Out of the cloud, a silence, then a lark. Out of the heart, a rapture, then a pain. Out of the dead, cold ashes, life again. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be. If you would look in your link to the order of service, our hymn is new, probably to all of us, but very appropriate in these days. It's called I Know I Can. Melissa's going to come up and we'll sing it together. We hope you will sing at home.
Out of gratitude for all we have been given and all we have now, we share our resources because we love and trust each other, and because this church enriches our lives and empowers us to make the world better. We rely upon each other as much now as ever, members and friends, and we appreciate the payment of pledges and the generous donations to support the legacy, vision, and work of this church community. Contributions may be made by PayPal by clicking on the link below, or visit our website and click on the donate button, or by mailing checks to the church. All undesignated contributions will be divided between our Split the Plate recipient organization, Hospice of West Alabama, and our congregation. Please mark your pledge payment to UUCT in the comments field on PayPal or the memo line of your check. If you prefer to write a check directly to the selected organization, please mail it to Hospice of West Alabama. The offertory music will continue in this window as you open a new window to make your contributions. By the work of our hands and the generosity of our hearts, our love is made real. By the work of our hands and the generosity of our hearts, our love is made real. Thank you for your gifts.
Welcome to a new day in the life of our congregation. Despite what we are seeing on the news, hearing on the radio, and reading on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, this is not the end of the world. Not even close, I promise. We are heading into rough seas and uncharted waters, to be sure. We are facing an enormous crisis across our country, and it probably feels like our individual and collective vessels are being tossed about with such force as to make us fear that we will capsize, but we won't. We are a community, and we have each other's backs, fronts, tops, and bottoms. No one in this community is sailing in these rolling waves alone. We are all in this together, and we will weather the storms. Think back to the first time you walked in the door of our church building. How did it feel? What did you notice first? Did someone speak to you, or did you enter quietly? What were you expecting? Did you know anything about Unitarian Universalism, or was it a random choice? How did you feel after your first experience here? What were you hoping to find? Clearly, something intrigued you, appealed to you, touched you in some way that made you want to return. Something about this congregation met a need or offered something you had been searching for. Years ago, I was babysitting for one of my college professors, and one evening her husband came home, and as I gathered my things, we chatted a bit about my plan to go to seminary. He found it very interesting and confided that he had recently started to go to church again after a long hiatus. Their son had just turned 2, and Rich smiled and shook his head as he confessed, "Oh, I love Nicholas, of course, but that child challenges me every day. I get so frustrated. I hear myself expressing things I never imagined I would think, much less say to my child." He looked up at me with embarrassment. "I'm going to church again because I need a place where I can be forgiven for being such an imperfect father." When you came through that church door, were you perfect? Were you looking for a gathering of perfect people? Sadly, churches have a general reputation of being places that expect perfection out of their members. When I watch the news, I get frustrated by what I call the culture of the superlative. Everything presented is the estest, if you know what I mean. For instance, homicides in the city are the worst since 2010. That movie grossed the highest ever in box office sales. You remember that little snowstorm a couple of years ago? It put down about a half an inch of snow, and it was quickly labeled Snowmageddon, the worst storm ever. Unless you're old enough to remember the blizzard of '93. That was the worst ever. Unless there was an even worse one further back, and on and on. Now, in the last few weeks, the last few days, all we hear is the news of the worst, the baddest, and the ugliest statistics and reports of the current disaster compared to previous disasters and predictions of the direst of disasters to come. The estest news of recent days is the exhaustingest we've ever heard and provokes the worstest anxiety we've ever felt and promises to be the sleep-losingest, appetite-suppressingest, isolatingest, toilet paper hoardingest apocalypse the world has ever seen. Well, at least since the last estest disaster the world had ever seen. Now, I don't mean to make light of the situation. COVID-19 is a bad, scary illness, and we are right to take it seriously and adopt a defensive posture. But maybe we could dial down the estest frenzy just a bit. Maybe we could find some room to relax together just a little and remember that we are not alone in this. Now, I know we have a long-standing tradition of admiring the superlatives. I looked up the website of the Guinness World Records Company. The idea came about in the 1950s when Sir Hugh Beaver, managing director of the Guinness Brewery, attended a shooting party in County Wexford. There, he and his hosts argued about the fastest game bird in Europe and failed to find an answer in any reference book. In 1954, recalling that argument, Sir Hugh had an idea for a Guinness promotion based on the idea of settling pub arguments and invited the twins, Norris and Ross McWhirter, who were fact-finding researchers from Fleet Street, to compile a book of facts and figures. What turned out to be merely a first edition took the McWhirter brothers 13 and a half 90-hour weeks, including weekends and bank holidays. The new company, Guinness Superlatives, was incorporated on the 30th of November, and the office opened in 2 rooms in a converted gymnasium on the top floor of Ludgate House on Fleet Street. And the rest is superlative history. The fastest game bird, by the way, is the golden plover, in case you were curious. The attraction of being the famous superlative holds much sway over us. In fact, we learn to assign value to others and to ourselves based on how we measure up to each other. We have leaders in this country who pay a lot of lip service to their ideas about winners and losers. There are mental health professionals who tell us we learn a lot more from losing and from winning, that failure is often the first step to success. It's not that I object to a little competition, nor am I immune to the ongoing fascination with record setters, but I am concerned that we don't make enough room for everyone else. Most of us will never set a world record for anything, and those few who do will find the fame and admiration short-lived, because there is always a line of eager competitors waiting for a chance to set new records of their own. The current state of emergency and our culture of the superlative are proving a dangerous combination which threatens to make a bad situation worse. It is good to learn the facts, adopt sensible practices, make necessary lifestyle changes, follow emergency guidelines, and all the rest. The Estist messaging is designed to add panic to the mix, and panic never helps. Panic makes people do weird and crazy things. Panic makes people hoard toilet paper. I heard a lot about excellence when I was growing up. I was encouraged to do my best in school and in activities, and I received a lot of affirmation for such efforts. However, censure was swift when I failed to live up to expectations. Clearly, I was not doing my best if I wasn't making the top grades and receiving glowing reports from my teachers. There was no room made for being merely adequate in my academic pursuits. The area I couldn't excel in was sports. I was physically a slow, uncoordinated, and awkward child. I couldn't throw, I couldn't catch, I couldn't hit. I was a slow runner. PE, after-school care, summer camps were all my nightmare. My head is still filled with dreary memories of miserable, sweaty days with coaches yelling at me to run further, try harder, jump higher, get with the program, hustle, Ruth. I was often at the top in the classroom, but on the playing field, I was the last chosen for the team and the first to be mocked for my failings. It was an extraordinary relief to attend a high school which allowed me to substitute choir for phys ed. Sadly, I had learned by then to despise exercise. That has not served me very well in the long run. It is one thing to admire perfection and another to punish the imperfect for their imperfections. Think of the Olympics, which are coming up soon enough. Much media hype is made over potential gold medalists, but the athletes disappear from view the minute they have lost the gold. Oh, we pet on the silver and bronze medal winners for a few screen minutes as we demand that they explain their failure and tell us how they're feeling about it. It is remarkable that more journalists have not been attacked under these circumstances. These are top athletes in the world in their respective sports. Only the top few ever even get to compete in the Olympic Games, and yet we treat those who didn't make the Estist scores like failures. More than once I've told my son to be kind and encouraging to everyone in the class. There will always be someone in the room smarter than you, and there will always be someone in the room not quite as smart, but everyone has their own perspective, and everyone is worth listening to with respect and interest. The one on top today may be somewhere in the middle tomorrow. Right now is a good time to remember that. We all need each other, especially now, and it behooves us to dig deep into our reserves of kindness in these challenging days. I came out of the Methodist tradition, and when I was ordained, along with 20-something other colleagues all together, I was required to respond aloud to Founder John Wesley's famous 19 questions asked of all aspiring clergy. Numbers 2, 3, and 4 came back to me recently. 1, are you going on to perfection? 2, do you expect to be made perfect in love in this life? 3, are you earnestly striving after it? My co-ordinands and I struggled with these questions. How could we honestly claim that we expected to be made perfect, or even to be constantly striving for perfection? Most of us were just hoping to develop mere competency in the many and various skills we needed to be parish ministers. Perfection seemed not only impossible, but an unreasonable goal for us to be striving for. Of course, I answered yes, like everyone else, but I felt unsure and even frightened of my imperfections and my doubts. I know that all UU churches are conglomerations of faith perspectives, and the Christian one is often the minority. But it is a big part of our history as Unitarian Universalists, and we have inherited some of the same blessings and curses that our Christian church friends still struggle with. The history of obsession with perfection in churches and the mixed message that forgiveness is available, but everyone must be perfect, may have come from a misinterpretation of a lesson Rabbi Jesus is reported to have taught about the challenge of loving those whom we perceive as enemies. The 5th chapter of Matthew, which is one of the Christian sacred texts, reads, "Be perfect, therefore, as your Father in heaven is perfect." Taken out of context, this presents an impossible standard for any churchgoer to meet. It implies that church is only for people who are already perfect. And if that's really the case, none of us has a place in any congregation. The misinterpretation of the passage lies in it being removed from the lesson, which is about trying to love our enemies and to pray for them. It is about aspiring to do more than love those who love us back and reward us for our affection. This is about deeper, harder love. It requires us to aspire toward divine level compassion in order to really live with, cooperate with, engage with people around whom we don't feel comfortable. At a time when we are instructed to keep a physical distance from people for the sake of everyone's health, this call to deeper and more difficult love is well worth remembering. When I was asked as a Methodist aspiring to ordain ministry if I was going on toward perfection and expecting to be made perfect in love, I recognized that it was only with the deepest humility that I could answer with a small, scared yet hopeful yes, believing that the power of love is stronger than both my own many imperfections and the brokenness of the world I so wanted to make better through my service. That brokenness will most certainly come into sharper focus in the days ahead. So when you entered the church door for the first time, were you looking for a group of perfect human beings? If so, you must have been sorely disappointed. Sorry, Unitarian Universalist kin and kindred, y'all are right nice and very welcoming. Clearly you're committed to the 7 principles and you're doing some great work to help make the world better. But perfect? Well, no. I must inform you, in case you weren't already aware, none of us is perfect. Yet. Because I am still working on those ordination vows myself. When you found your way to our church, were you looking for a place where you, all of yourself, would be welcome? Were you looking for a place to be forgiven or accepted or understood or appreciated or loved, or all of these? Did you bring all of your gifts and your imperfections? Did you offer all of yourself to the cause of building a better world? Well, you probably came to the right place. And you were probably exactly the imperfect pilgrim this congregation needed, even if they didn't know it yet. We do have room for imperfection here, and we can learn from each other's gifts and help heal each other's brokenness. We don't all have to be superlative. We do not have to be the estest of the estest. We don't even have to pretend. When someone asks us how we are, we don't have to reply, "Awesome!" especially if we are not feeling particularly awe-inspiring at that moment. We can say, "Adequate, thanks. And you?" Unitarian Universalists not only welcome the imperfect, but we won't try to fix anyone either. No creeds here to force everyone to pretend to think alike. No strange practices to alter folk and make them appear more acceptable. Superlatives are optional here, and imperfection is welcome. Remember, siblings and kindred, we are all in this boat together, all imperfect, all a bit scared, all trying to figure things out. We will all try, and sometimes we'll fail, and then we'll try again. We will help each other, encourage each other, tolerate each other. We may even share our toilet paper supplies and our hand sanitizing gel, and we will get through this together. None of us has to face things alone, not in this church community, not now, not on my watch. Imperfect we may be, but we will be imperfect together. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be. Our closing hymn is "I Know This Rose Will Open." You'll find the lyrics in the order of service. The link is below. Melissa's going to come forward to help me. We're actually going to sing it together once, and then we're going to sing it in a round. And if there's more than one person in the room, y'all can try that too. Siblings and kindred, I know it's a hard time, and I know that all of us are struggling with a lot of things. I know that fear threatens every day. I want you to take from this time together a little bit of courage, a little bit of encouragement, a lot of hope. We have one another, and we will get through this together. Blessings upon everyone here.